Good afternoon, everybody. So we've got a lot of people coming in. That makes me excited. Thank you, especially with an afternoon slot. So let's keep this a bit dynamic. What I thought I'd do is we'll do a little bit of audience participation before we get into the presentation. So first off, how many of you used a navigation system to arrive at the event, whether going to the airport, coming here, etc.? Any show of hands? All right, I would be very worried in this audience if it was low. How many of you use driver assistance programs like an autopilot or any other assistance program that your car may have? All right, so we have a few less hands. And even more fun, how many of you enjoyed that experience? Even less hands, so that's what I thought. So we as an industry must do more to drive innovation faster. And with that, we will focus today on how ecosystems can accelerate user-centric innovation and time to market, and that's going to be our topic. So let me get going here with a quick introduction. So I'm Mike Nefkens. I've been the CEO of Here Technologies for 2 years. I'm going to co-present today with Remco Timmer. So he'll spend the last half of the presentation getting into some details. A quick little intro on Here. So we are the global leader in maps and location services. We are a private company that's been owned by Mercedes-Benz, BMW, Audi, Mitsubishi Corp, Intel, and NTT. I'm glad I got that right. I was most worried about that in my presentation. And we have been in business for over 40 years, innovating. We have 222 million vehicles shipped with Here data and services and solutions. And we have 44 million vehicles that are providing us with some kind of perception data, probe data, sensor data, etc. And this is really important because as maps are used differently, this data really allows us to define that. We have over 3.5 thousand patents, and a lot of those patents are used today from the technology from companies like Tesla all the way through the industry. So a really strong foundation to innovate. So with that, I wanted to show you a quick example when I talk about why change is urgent. You see an example here of one of the solutions that we have with one of our Chinese OEM partners. This is our navigation on autopilot solution. And you can see on the right how you have the navigation screen with much richer data, but you're seeing the integration of the sensing, mapping, and all the different systems in the vehicle coming up in front of you so that you can see all that. Whether your experience is gasoline, EV, or hybrid, it's all there for you. And that's just a quick example of how we are innovating. So with that, I want to take a step back, and I'm moving into Professor Mike mode here. This is not a Here commercial. We're going to talk about the industry and what I think the industry needs to do better to accelerate. And it starts by really understanding the different architectures that are out there. So we're moving from yesterday's architecture being a distributed architecture with many, many ECUs, disparate software. Today we're in this domain phase, and both of those are becoming outdated very, very quickly. And we're moving towards what we call zonal architectures, which really simplify the hardware footprint and the software stack. And the layers between the silicon and the end user are being simplified, and the vehicle will become an end user device. I think all of us in this room, when we hear SDV, that is what we truly understand. And we're moving from millions of lines of code to tens of millions, and we're even getting to the point where I'm hearing now about billions of lines of code in the vehicle. This affects everyone in the value chain, including us as the lead map maker. And the map will be ubiquitous and consistent across all these use cases. And you can see at the bottom how the map is changing the way that it's being used. Before it was being sold per use case, and now it really becomes almost a middle layer in the vehicle that powers different use cases. Now, the advent of what we call live maps and data and real-time connectivity is here, and it's providing significant advantages to ecosystems. So we'll talk a little bit about where we came from, and we all know the download era, right? Where software was updated maybe once a year. We then moved, and where most of us are still driving cars in the streaming era, where it can be updated maybe weekly if you're lucky, or monthly. But now these live AI-centric maps are continuously updated, like the example I showed you earlier with that integrated cockpit. And the role of the map is changing. We heard that today. I think Alex from Wave was up talking about how the map is being used different. All the conversations I'm having with OEMs shows that as well. And if you take a look at that, we're finally at a point where we're bringing the map together with all the sensing data to provide that real view. But the map is still important because you need to know rules and regulations, traffic ahead of you and road alerts, weather, and even more important, route and path planning, which you can't see just with the sensors. So the map will play a different role, but definitely here to stay. And I want to debunk a lot of people use, when I came on board, this term mapless, and this is a good one. We are actually the leading provider of mapping attributes to the mapless players. So you have to think about that one for a minute. So it's still being used, but just in a different way. So how do we as an industry bring all this together at speed? And we believe ecosystems must align to new principles to take advantage of some of the technological shifts I just talked you through. All right, so we're going to take a big step back now and really talk about the industry and specifically the OEMs. The vertical stack players, and we know who they are, they have a significant advantage. They have no vendor integration, and they have an ability to seamlessly move quick when it comes to time to market and TCO. So for a lot of the non-vertical OEMs, the current SDV stacks are way too complex with multiple points of failure and slow time to market. If you take a look at this stack on the right, this is a stack that we see in the industry. This is an SDV stack. And you can see here, this is a Gen 1 SDV stack. It has 12 suppliers in it, so every one of these colors is a different supplier, and it has 11 different maps in it that have had to be integrated together. So just think of the complexity there. When you're in the vehicle and you know, things aren't quite clicking, it's because SDV 1.0 was not integrated great. So what do we call that? The struggle for the user in the cockpit is real. And I call what we just showed, that SDV, the left picture is my favorite, I call it the Frankenstein. And it basically is a stack that's too complex and it has way too high of a TCO. And it's confusing for the user in the cockpit. You'll one time have one system telling you stay in your lane and go straight while your navigation is saying you need to get off here. And it's really slow to market. So with that, I'm going to go back to that verticalized concept I talked about with the OEMs, right? And we have experience with almost all of the OEMs on the chart here. And the vertical players are winning, and they're in the top right quadrant. Most of these, I think 62% are Chinese OEMs right now. The fast follower approach on the bottom left, which is great. It is a safe haven, but being in the middle is dangerous. And I see progress if you take a look at the two axes here. We have platform readiness, which really, when we look at the supplier community, it's saying how good are the products that are out there. The products are good. The problem is the left axis, and that is organizational readiness. And what do I mean by organizational readiness? And this is at the OEMs and at the suppliers, is the culture to curate a winning ecosystem to move faster versus these Frankensteins is still not there yet. And that's what we as an industry need to improve upon. So with that, can the non-vertical OEMs gain traction and win via an ecosystem approach? And we believe absolutely they can. This is a little survey we did. 78% of the ecosystem partnerships believe that we need a tight, cutting-edge ecosystem to be able to move faster. Yet what's really interesting is 40% of our European players believe that it's 10 years away to get to a point where all the suppliers can play well together in a way that allows for speed and low TCO. So we must drive now to accelerate, or we will be left behind. So with that, if you're not verticalized, what does that mean? And the future of, I think our market needs to be ecosystem driven. And it's all about collaboration across the ecosystem value chain. How we're working now, most of us is on the left. No fit, poorly integrated, picking and choosing different suppliers, plugging them in and out. And what we have to do is we have to focus on how we can bring all the data and the systems together in an organized way. So how do we bring all of this together? And that's what I'll introduce here. So it starts with understanding what a great ecosystem partnership looks like. And what are the core tenets of that? They are, we have to share data across partners. And right now, I think that is the biggest one. No one wants to share their data. And if you don't do that, I call it a Mexican standoff, right? I lived in Mexico for over 10 years. No one is ready to engage. We need to co-create solutions. We have to have pre-integrated software. This stuff has to work together. It has to be pre-integrated. So when the OEMs get a chance to test it, it's already been tested. It works well. There is a virtualized bench that we can leverage. And we'll talk much more about that. We need to focus on allowing the OEMs to customize and extend. They shouldn't be focusing on building. They should be focusing on customization and extending, right? A good ecosystem means that we can train and simulate. And then the last is we have to have a cooperative business model between the various partners. It cannot be purely competitive. All right, so with that, what I'd like to do now is I'd like to invite Remco Timmer on stage. He leads solutions and architecture for here. He will walk you through where to get started as you think about the concepts that I just showed you around ecosystem acceleration, and in particularly how we collaborate through virtualization. So with that, thank you for today. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and Remco, you're up. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mike. And indeed, it's critical for the automotive ecosystem to accelerate collaboration. And we really believe, and we know out of experience, that key to accelerate collaboration is virtualization. We believe that virtualization is actually going to be the driving force behind the SDV transformation. It's going to help all of us to accelerate further. For those that don't know, what is actually virtualization? To put it simply, it's basically making sure you can get access to a digital twin of the digital cockpit well ahead of that cockpit ever being built. Not only a digital cockpit, but embedded in a digital car, and importantly, a digital car that's embedded in a digital virtual environment. The cool thing there is that you don't have to wait for the hardware to be present, but you can do this well before start of production. And you don't stop there, you keep continuously doing this. So even when the cars are in the market, you continuously have access to digital twins of those vehicles, so that all of the developers within your company and also well beyond your company have access to deployable targets, virtual targets, where they can test and evaluate their software. This is critical to evaluate what is there in the market. It's critical during the design phase, to the build phase, and of course when you're finally testing and validating the software. And before you deploy into the real vehicle, you're 100% sure that what you want to deploy is actually of high quality and high integrity. And this will help a lot. Let me pause here a little bit and really talk about the role of the map within that future automotive experience. We really believe that the map is still at the center and at the heart of the automotive experience. If you enter a car and you see the car in context of the entire environment, it's immediately clear that that car is smart, connected, and in tune with everything that's relevant for the driver. Of course, it can also support the driver in discovery and exploration, finding new destinations that you want to travel to. And if you found those, it will help you with routes and with navigation and guidance along the route, so you're safest and smartest on the road. But yes, the map also continues to be a vital part of the ADAS and AD systems. There's no such thing as absolute mapless ADAS and AD systems. They will still leverage a map to be aware of the route, for example, to know where they need to navigate to, but also to be informed with the latest and greatest traffic information. It's critical for path and maneuver planning to know the lanes on the road, for example. And quite often, the field of view of sensors is obstructed. Could be because of the other traffic around the vehicle, could be because of weather conditions or other conditions. So you need to quite often see beyond the curve, beyond the elevation, or beyond the traffic that is just ahead of you. What is also important is that a lot of information off the road that is critical for assisted and automated driving is simply invisible to sensors. Road rules, regulation, a lot of the speed limits are unposted and invisible. So in order for that, we also bring a map, so that you can always fall back to that. And the last role of the map that we see is actually of growing and growing importance, is to be able to encode the operational design domain of your software, to understand where this software functionality is to be activated and deactivated, and under which kind of operating conditions you designed it for. Actively managing the ODD is a critical part of delivering safe and resilient ADAS and AD solutions, so an absolutely vital part. Now, already Mike showed you our big picture of the innovative offerings that we have, and what we really see is that we, these days, provide one unified map for both navigation and autopilot. You want the autopilot systems to, of course, be aware of the route, so that they can do path planning and maneuver planning, But the other way around is critically important as well. You want the navigation system to be aware of the ODD of all the ADAS and AD features. So you can recommend routes with the highest degree of L2, L2+, or L3 driving. And as a consequence, get your consumers to be accustomed with these kind of exciting features. So it's really key that these are based on the same ground truth. Now, ground truth doesn't stop there. Yes, it needs to feed the vehicle in real time, but the ground truth it can also serve as the ground truth for virtual engineering. So our map can be used to generate realistic simulation environments, that you're 100% sure that what you're going to experience in the virtual environment is consistent with what the cars are going to see in the real world as well. This is key. Of course, you want to train and validate on something that is representative of the real world. Not a Mario world, but a real representation of the ground truth. If you figured out that your software can perform in that environment, you need to keep the ODD up to date. You want to extend to a new state, to a new country, or you want your system to operate under new conditions. And this is also what you can encode on top of that map. Now, of course, a lot of the speakers have talked about the critical role in AI in all of this, and also here, AI is everywhere. It's there to generate more code, more exciting innovation. It will help all of the developers to be more productive. It will help accelerate the deployment of new software into the vehicles tremendously and to deploy into many virtual targets ahead of the deployment in the real vehicle. But we are using AI at mass as well to keep that ground truth up to date. Those 44 million vehicles we talked about, they're all providing us with an incredible amount of sensor data. We would never, ever be able to go through all of that with manual labor. And that's why we have built a highly automated map-making machine. Of course, AI plays a vital role in all of this, and this helps us to keep that ground truth up to date. And then also AI helps to take that ground truth and generate not just one realistic simulation environment, but create many permutations of that environment. This is really key. You want to find the edge case. You want to have resilience in your software stack. And that's what we also enable. Not one realistic environment, but many, many, all across the world, and in many different variants. And that's what we enable as well. So AI really accelerates all of this. When we talk about virtualization, we still see a lot of our customers, OEMs, think first about virtualizing the hardware, the car, the chipset. And that's nice, but you want to virtualize a larger part of the total SDV architecture. You need to virtualize the hypervisors, the operating systems as well, the application development environments, and importantly, even the entire front-end user experience for the customer. And that's really key. That's who we're doing this for. We're not doing this for technology's sake. We're doing this for innovation to the end user. So we need to extend virtualization all the way to the top of the stack, where it becomes tangible to the user. You can have all the colleagues in the company evaluate the future user experience and be sure you're hitting the target. You can have everybody outside of the company as well to test and sample this user experience. This is great for internal developers. No longer they have to wait for one of the benches being available, one of the test cars being available. No, at any time they want, they can spool up a digital cockpit and test and trial their software in that digital cockpit, in a digital car, in a digital environment that is representative of the real-world environment. Nice for your internal developers, but even more important if you're collaborating in the ecosystem with your partners. All of your suppliers, all of your partners have access to these digital twins as well. And they can evaluate the performance of what they contribute to the stack and how everything comes together or doesn't yet come together. This is key. Not to your partners only, even for the third-party developer ecosystem. If you have an opportunity to provide a digital twin for all of the exciting innovators that are out there, they will unleash their creativity and show you what they can contribute to the final user experience of your vehicle. But before we start virtualizing, we need to clean up this mess a bit. I think Mike called this the Frankenstein stack. Because trying to virtualize all of this, that's going to be very messy, very cumbersome, and still not very easy to work with. So what we need to do is to try to clean this up. Rather than having a very componentized architecture, deliver highly integrated or pre-integrated verticalized solutions. That is also what we do with our OEM partners. Rather than providing all kinds of components, for many years we're providing full navigation stacks now. They are ready-made, super reliable, and exciting by themselves. But what is even cooler is they're very adaptable. It's very easy to configure the business logic, very easy to adapt the UI layer, and very easy to incorporate your own first-party services into this, and even the third-party services into this. And this is key. We need to make sure that the OEMs get access to building blocks that they can use to deliver super exciting, innovative propositions to their consumers. And we need many of those from all the OEMs, different ones, so that the consumer has something exciting to choose from. This is absolutely key. Luckily, we're not the only ones doing this. We're super excited that today we are launching the SDV Accelerator Initiative. This is something that we started off together with our partner, Amazon Web Services, AWS, but not just us. We have found many of our partners available and have them virtualize their stacks. What we did is first make sure that their pre-integrated solutions are available, and then make them available in such a way that they're easy to sample in a virtualized environment. You can click together the exact components you're interested in. Of course, we're not prescribing what you should choose. There's a whole wealth of opportunities to choose from. And if you click together what seems to fit your target audience, then you can sample that and test that and try that out. First in a digital cockpit, then in a digital car, and then in a digital car in that digital environment. So we're super excited for Electrobit, Panasonic, Entity Docomo, Mireo, Upning from Forvia, ARM, Micware, and QNX to join this initiative. And together, we actually have a lot of the key building blocks of a typical SDV architecture. And you can sample these, click these together, and see them come to life in a virtualized software development environment on AWS. We also have already 2 OEMs that are using this today, trying the different configurations and see if they will fit the different platform architectures that they are targeting. And we already see an incredible performance out of that. We see, of course, accelerated development. No longer are they wasting time on integrating low-level components. No, these come pre-integrated solutions, which will have them focus all of their development time and efforts on bringing innovative and differentiated features. Also, with integration come a lot of overhead, a lot of cost. And with these pre-integrated solutions, actually what we see is that the total cost of ownership of the stack actually reduces dramatically for the OEM. Not just in terms of development cost, but also in overhead in deployment, on data I/O, for example, or on compute footprint. You can reduce cost. And then it also helps accelerate time to market. So for some OEMs, we literally go from years to months or weeks to first see sample of software running in their vehicles. And I think this is key. You want to trial and error, you want to see all kinds of different permutations, and you need to see what works best for your consumer. You want to make it as tangible as possible. So we really promote the idea that you don't just look at the software architecture on slides, but deploy it in a digital cockpit, in that digital car, in a digital environment, and leverage simulation all throughout. Not just during your development or during your training, but also in validation, not just once before SOP, but continuously over the vehicle lifecycle. This is absolutely key. It will increase the quality and integrity of what you deliver to the market, and it will have many more people in the company involved in bringing innovation to your consumers. The cool thing also is what we saw is that the architectures that were selected and configured by the OEMs, they don't only apply to a single vehicle hardware platform, but they could actually equally apply to other configurations all across the globe. Maybe with different hardware underneath, maybe with different screens to the consumer, but you can test all these different permutations, and this is key. So you don't lose all of the knowledge that you've gained in one program in the next program, but you actually retain this and move it forward. The benefits for the OEMs are already great, but benefits for partners are also great. We ourselves see incredible benefits of virtualization. When we started to use this a couple years ago, we see that the innovation speed really picks up. We see that we can get way more people involved in testing the software. Internally, externally, we gain way more feedback. We know we can hit the mark on an exciting user experience much better than without virtualization. So that's a great benefit that this brings to the partners. But also, this SDV Accelerator initiative enables partners to show the best of what they have to offer. They can bring this into the AWS Workbench and basically have OEMs explore the exciting solutions they have to offer proactively, rather than having to wait for the OEM to ask what it is that they'll need. There's so much exciting innovation from the partners that we have there, and I think it's an incredible opportunity for OEMs to cherry pick the best that suits their audience. It also brings great benefit for tier ones. Rather than having to take all the software architecture and the hardware architecture and trying to fit and make it work together just before SOP, they can already see if the system will work well, if the integration has succeeded, and if this is of high quality and integrity before deploying it into the real architecture. So this really speeds up time to market, but of course also increases the quality of the entire builds. In the end, we're doing this for the developers. The developers in the OEMs that are waiting for the benches, waiting for the test fleets, and basically don't have the opportunity to deploy into virtual cockpits, virtual cars, in virtual environments to unleash the powerful software that they are creating. For those in the partners and the collaboration between the partners and the OEMs, those in the tier ones, But even beyond, all those third-party developers out there that have exciting ideas how they can contribute to the automotive user experience. They could have access to these digital twins, and this is a very effective way of engaging with them. So with this virtualization, we not only believe that we will accelerate collaboration, but we'll really also unleash the creativity of all of those developers out there, all of those designers out there that want to show how they can impact the future automotive user experience, which is key to delight your customers. Now, a lot of content in about 25 minutes. Just a couple of key things to keep in mind. So yes, we are all convinced, and Mike showed the great survey that we did together with Omdia. Across over 600 different experts we asked, and everybody's convinced that we need to accelerate the SDV transformation through collaboration. But the key thing is, we believe virtualization will actually really help to do so. It's a way for everybody to show to everybody else what they have to offer. It's a tangible way of experiencing what they have to offer. And it's nice to prove that things can work together well ahead of that becoming available in the car. So also, what we were excited about is how many great innovations all of the partners that we brought to the SDV Accelerator initiative actually have laying around for you to evaluate. So we can bring all of those great pre-integrated high-quality stacks onto the workbenches and have you explore the benefits for your consumer. The map is still absolutely key. Yeah, the role of the map is changing, but it's still key. It's a vital part of the cabin experience, the companion app experience, and still it remains a vital part of the assisted driving and autonomous driving functionality in a car. But it's not only in the car, it's also in the virtual engineering environment. The map will make sure that if you deploy into the digital cabin in the car, you can do so in a realistic and representative digital environment. So you can really see that everything will work in the real world before you deploy and deliver that into the real vehicles. So to close it off, it's all about tearing down the walls, making collaboration far more easy, and together we can build that future. So please also join us. This is a start. We already have an incredible wealth of partners on board, but there's many more that can add a lot of value to the table, and we'd love you to join us. And many more OEMs that can try and test all of these different configurations of all the partners and get hands-on with all of this exciting innovation. If you'd like to see how all of this looks like, then you can also join me later at the AWS Theater, so at 5:30. You can see some of the different permutations that are possible and how, as an engineer and developer, you can actually use this to craft those future experiences. So please feel welcome and join us later at the AWS Theater. Thank you very much.